get a notification. You're about to get a notification saying that we are recording. I will let Avril share her screen in a second. I just wanted to say welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. A lot of you have come from our online community, but I think some of you might also be Avril's online community. So for anybody that doesn't know me, good morning, happy Friday. My name is Rachel. I am a disruptor in the accounting industry, so I'm trying to disrupt what it means to be an accountant, trying to disrupt what it feels like as a small business owner to have an accountant, and to also be a great employer of other accountants. These community webinars are one of the best bits of my whole job. For us, a lot of the support and advice and community that comes with having an accountant is actually nothing to do with accounting and finance. It's all small business owner stuff. All of the questions that I was Googling, all of the things that I had to go and do an MBA to find the answers to, and actually graduated not knowing the answers to, these are the people that I am trying to curate and put in front of you so that you don't have to frantically Google the answers or book a sales call or sign up to like loads of people's mailing lists just to find the answers. And so these are almost like curtain Twitch sessions where you can just be a bit nosy, see what other people do, look inside other people's businesses, get lists of software that is amazing for your business, and also have some very fun, wholesome networking as a part of it as well. Avril made a huge impact on our business just by being a client, onboarding herself, and then giving us feedback on our onboarding process. And so I have been so excited for today. So I'm very excited to hand you over to the lovely Avril.
Oh, thank you so much. So let me know in the chat, my lovelies, if you can all see my screen. Okay.
Yes, we can. All good.
Right, let me just move you over here. So I want to see all of your lovely faces. I have two screens in case you wonder why I'm looking over here to the left. Okay, so I am so excited to be here because, as Rachel has sort of attested to, processes are a big part of what I do in my business and how I support clients and how I support them to really have the freedom and the structure as well that they crave in their business, and processes form a big part of that. So I'm so excited to take you through today. Well, will be a really informal look at this because I understand the processes. When you hear that word, people's eyes glaze over and they feel like, I do not want to do this. It is very much the response I get whenever I talk to clients. So like, I just don't know where to start. So just to get us started, a little bit of an introduction to me so you know who you're talking to or who's talking to you today. So really my passion lies in supporting founders to build businesses that serve them energetically as a business owner, the business financially, and their clients purposefully, and the planet sustainably. So those are all my values that come in there. So energetic, financial stability and security, because we know that obviously if you're in business, it needs to be generating profit. If there needs to be finances coming in to make it stable, and your clients are there, they're the reason that you're here. You want to serve them, and we want to make sure that they're served purposefully and fully. And obviously we want to ensure that we can do this also in a way that kind of protects our planet as well. So sustainability kind of comes into this as well in terms of processes. So originally I did my degree in marketing. I was a marketeer in corporate for many years, and then I started to do a host of other qualifications. So I'm a certified NLP practitioner, timeline therapist, hypnotherapist, EFT practitioner, lots of different things there to really help people understand, what's going on in our brains that can help us or hinder us as we move through life. I have corporate experience across a broad range of industries and business sides. I've worked right from startups, scrappy startups, trying to figure out who we are in the industry to get the process in place, to very large organizations, across the globe. And I have 8 years experience as a business owner. And as well as the business stuff, I always think it's important to get to know the person. So to give you a bit of an insight into me, I'm a 6-2 generator in human design, and I'm an INTP in 16 personalities. That's only 2.5% of people. So I'm the person that kind of falls into the really good at creating relationships and connecting with people, but also really strategic and really process driven. I live in Northern Ireland, little part of the island of Ireland here, with my husband, dog, and a crazy Cocker Spaniel who I've had to lock downstairs for this presentation. Otherwise, he would be in here sitting, staring at you all in the background. He loves to do a cameo on a call. And when I'm not here doing things like this, you'll find me on a beach or in a forest. And by day, I'm a flat white girl, and by night, you'll find me with a French martini. So if you're a French martini girl, let me know where you're at, or man. French martinis aren't just for us ladies. So I want to know from you, if you all take a little minute, I want you to pop in the chat for me. Where are you now on your journey when it comes to processes and systems? So we've got a sort of a little quadrant here. So quadrant 1 is I have absolutely no process in place. I'm reactive. Most things are manual, and it's all living in my head right now. And that's what we all start out as business owners. So if you're there right now, I want you to know that's completely okay place to be. And 2, processes are loosely documented. Like I've kind of put some things down maybe in Google Docs. I have some templates in place, and that could look like just having, you know, the same email that I send when I onboard clients saved in my Gmail. Mainly things are manual, and I have limited software in the business at the minute. 3 is they're documented, but they're not regularly reviewed. So it's like we write them down one day, we feel that energy, I'm going to capture this, and then we never go back to it. You're delegating and automating some tasks, so you're not the person doing everything anymore. There's either a person or a piece of software that perhaps is doing that for you, and you know there's room for improvement. And 4 is you are literally dispensable in your business, which is so funny because Rachel and I were talking about this before the call. Is when you get your processes to that point where you can actually take a month or 2 months off your business and nobody notices, that is where we're all aiming to be. Yeah, and this is great. So 3.8, love these, Rachel. Always know there's a little bit of room for improvement. 2, 3, 2, 2, 2, between 2 and 3. Yeah, so that's where most people are when I talk to them. Is, you know, I understand 1 and 3. Love that, Lindsay. That's really interesting. Some of them are documented and some of them aren't. So 2 and 3 is usually the quadrants that most people come to me, you know, when they're at this stage where your business is maybe growing faster than you, and you're finding yourself waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning being like, oh, did I do that thing? Did I send that thing? And you've maybe sent, and this is an experience that I've seen people have, you've sent a contract, a templated contract to a client with another client's details in it because the templates that you're using, you're just repurposing. Or like me, when I first came into business, started my own business, a client emailed me and said, like, are you billing us monthly or quarterly? Because we just haven't received any invoices. And then you realize, actually, hold on, I've actually forgot to get paid. So because you have no processes in place for actually how your clients are paying you. I'm just going to bring you guys back over onto the screen. I want to see your lovely faces as we're talking. So let's dive into this. This is fantastic that now we know where we are. I'm always a girl for the numbers, and I really want to give you this in terms of context so you can understand the importance of why it's so important to think about this work. So, you know, Forrester reports that BPM stands for not beats per minute, but business process management projects can deliver between 30 to 50% productivity gain. So can you imagine even if you're just looking at yourself and you're a founder in your business right now, it's maybe you and not too many other people. If you had 50% more time in your diary, like, what would you do with that time back? So this is looking at this from in terms of team. They also improve customer satisfaction. 30% of participants claim that it improves customer satisfaction. And we know that without our customers, we don't have a business. And this one I find so interesting, especially if you've got a growing team or you're growing a team, or at some point you want to start hiring a team in your business. Structured onboarding increases new employee retention by 58%. So let's think about this in terms of how much it costs to actually recruit an employee. So there's a cost there in terms of time, resource, energy to bring someone into your business. Then there's that element of actually increasing their productivity and supporting them to be productive and feel valued as they're contributing in their role. And so if you come into an organization and somebody says, there's your laptop, away you go. I mean, I'm sure we've all had some sort of an onboarding experience like that in our corporate career, where we sort of went into a role and be like, what am I here to do? How do I do this? And then that can very quickly erode their confidence in themselves also, as well as an employer. So really just understanding, how do I make this person set the expectations, set the boundaries, understand what success looks like, helping people understand what success looks like for them and give them the tools that they need to do that. And then this is the one that always, I use this stat everywhere because it applies to everything in business. But businesses that prioritize the customer experience are 60% more profitable than those that don't. So actually, exactly what we're talking about, those touch points, they can all help build that trust, but they're also help you create profitability as a business, because when you focus on what your client is getting out of it and how efficiently and effectively they're able to get to solve the problem that they're coming to you for and how they feel about that, number one, you can make the process much more efficient and much more enjoyable for both you and them. And also they become your advocates. They are then the people that go out and say, no, you need to work with this person because actually it just feels really good. And actually they solve my problem in a way that doesn't cause me friction. So creating frictionless. And then this one, right, I haven't got this here because I want you guys to take a guess. What do you think this relates to in business? Like in terms of anything that comes to mind, what do you think 72% of small business owners fail? So everyone's like, I have no idea. Like ooh, leave me hanging, Rachel, leave me hanging. Yeah. They're overwhelmed by the roles and responsibilities. So that's like so many of us that are like in here, like that's nearly 3/4 that feel overwhelmed by roles and responsibilities. And let me have a chat of this with you, where you're coming into religion thinking, oh my goodness, how am I going to do this? How am I going to get this client on board when I need to complete that project, when I need to do that? And if you think about it, this is also a reason why I see business owners struggling with sales. And it's all interconnected, because subconsciously and on a nervous system level, if you don't have the process in place behind the scene to onboard a client efficiently and effectively, your nervous system is going to stop you from selling, because on a subconscious level, it's going to tell you you don't have capacity to bring new clients into your business. And if you're telling yourself that story subconsciously every single day, I don't have capacity, and consciously you're saying, oh my God, my figures are low, I really want to increase revenue this month, I really want to bring on 5 new clients this month. So consciously we're like, yeah, I want these new clients, I want them in my business, I'm here for it. And then you spend all month selling, but not really selling, because subconsciously and your nervous system is like, no, 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 we can't. So you're pushing against yourself. I want those new clients. No, you can't. And I can promise you that when you actually start to look at creating processes and systems in your business to support you to do that, it just opens up so much more opportunity and possibility for you as a business. So we sometimes see process and systems as a thing that's dug really deep in the back end of our business, but it really impacts and affects every single area of your business. So it impacts your HR, your finances, your sales and marketing, your productivity, your client experience. Systems and processes, I was talking to Rachel about this. A lot of the work that I do with clients is around service blueprinting. So we look at the customer journey, we look at the services that we offer, and actually how we can make those services much more profitable as a business, but also energetically aligned for us to enjoy delivering them, and for our clients to really solve their problems and meet their needs. And then behind that, so we have front of house. So a kind of an analogy I have for you here is like when you go to a restaurant, if you turn up and there's nobody in the front desk to greet you, there's nobody to show you your table, nobody takes your coat. These are all processes that are in place in restaurants. And then you sit down at the table and you meet your server. This is all front of house stuff. So we call this front of house. So, you're interacting with the people there. Somebody's taking your order, that's front of house. Then you have back of house, which is so the server then takes your order to the kitchen and the chef cooks. So you don't see the chef cooking your meal, but it's happening. And without that back of house system, you wouldn't get your meal. But then behind that is what we call the processes, the props, and the people. So we need to understand that chef's not going to have that steak in the fridge if he hasn't forethought and thought, right, what's our process for ensuring that we have all the food in that we need to make sure that we have the food to serve our clients. So, when they order them, how are we getting low in a certain wine? How do we know when we're getting low in wine? How do we know when we're at capacity? So actually, processes are on which everything else is built, and it allows everything else to be successful. And yeah, you can be successful and have a business without any processes and systems in place, but it's going to be finite. You're going to reach a point where as a business owner, you're either going to burn yourself out because you're so busy firefighting against everything, or your clients, you're going to erode trust and cost yourself money as a business owner because your clients aren't going to have the experience that you promised them. So when you say to somebody, this is what you're going to get when you work with us, and you mean that purposefully and wholly from your heart, and you want your clients to have this experience, and this is why I'm so passionate about it. Business owners want their clients to have the best experience they can when they work with them. They want them to feel good. They want them to have their problems solved. They want their clients to feel supported and served fully. And actually, a lot of the time, it's just the overwhelm of not having the capacity to do the stuff behind the scenes to provide that service is where business owners get stuck. So that's why I'm really passionate about this, because I know you as a business owner or as an employee or somebody in your role, you want to ensure that your clients and your customers are fully served. And this will really, really support you to do that. So let's start with a cup of coffee. And that doesn't mean go make yourself a cup of coffee. It's an analogy for actually helping you understand that you use processes in your life every single day. Your life is made up of processes every single day. So let's talk about when you go to make a cup of coffee in the house, right? You lift the kettle, pour the water in, you put it back, you turn it on, you go lift a cup out, you go get a spoon out, you lift your coffee out, you take a spoonful of coffee, put it in the cup, the kettle boils off, you pour it in, you stir it, you go to the fridge, you open the fridge, you add your milk, you stir it again, you put your spoon in the sink if you're my husband, or in the dishwasher if you're me, so depending on who you are, depends where you're going to put that spoon, and then you enjoy your cup of coffee. Guys, that's a process. It's a step-by-step way that we do things, inputs to get an output at the end. So we do all these inputs, and at the end we get this output of a beautiful frothy cup of coffee. Now that's a very manual process. I don't like doing things manually. So I automated the process by buying a nice Nespresso coffee machine. So now I just pop a pod in and I walk off and go and do something else, and the machine takes care of that for me. That's automating the process. So we're letting something else do the bulk of the work, but we're still getting the same output. And then there might be days where you want to outsource completely your coffee making, and you might lift up your phone and go on to Uber Eats or something and order one from Starbucks, and it arrives at your door. So that's just a manual process, an automated process, and completely outsourcing a process in your business. And that's how simple it can be. And if you keep that in mind when you're going through this process for yourself, it's always really good to anchor yourself back into something that we can relate to. It's the same as when you get out of bed in the morning, you make your bed, you open the curtains. So we actually use processes every day in our life, and actually we can, find ways that we can ease those processes and create more efficiency for ourselves as business owners. So if we look at the jargon, and this is where most people actually do find it really hard to it's just like, well, what does all this stuff mean, right? So you've got system, and this is the one word that I'm going to call out, because this is the one that gets confused the most. So system for me isn't a piece of software. So a system for me isn't ClickUp, or it isn't Asana, or it isn't anything like that. That's a piece of software that we use help us with the implementation of the overarching system. But of course, in the industry, they're just used so interchangeably. So for today, I just want you to understand that when I'm talking about system, I'm not talking about software. So system is the overarching, I call it like the umbrella. So it contains lots of different processes and workflows to get an output, okay? The processes are then the smaller elements that need to happen in order to deliver on the overarching system. And the workflow is the order in which those things happen. And I'm going to show you an example of this, because I'm all about examples. So the system is the overarching, so like a sales system. The processes are going to be lead management, pitching, signing the client. The workflow is going to be, well, what happens within that process and in what order to achieve an output? Software then is there something out there that can help us manage, deliver, implement, or control the system? And yeah, 9 times out of 10 there is. And then SOP, the one where people just are like, what does that mean? And SOP simply means standard operating procedure. And that's exactly where it's like a document, and it doesn't have to be a document, but most of the time you'll see this as a document where it lists out exactly the key steps, what needs to happen, are there any templates, what software you use. So it's almost like your operations Bible. So you go and you lift it down on the shelf and you look at it. But what we're seeing more and more in an industry where lots of small businesses are operating, that's great if you have a large scaling growing organization. And a lot of the times I see clients trying to start here and then getting overwhelmed. So I'm going to talk you through how you can build yourself up to that point where you actually have a system that you can use with more structured SOPs. So knowing that you don't have to start here, but it is a good place to get to in your business as you go through. And I always say, I always break SOP down as simplification plus optimization equals profit. And that's literally, if you ever want to think about why you're doing it, just remind yourself we're simplifying and we're optimizing, which is going to make our business more profitable. So here's an example of a broken down view. So one thing that we all know we need to do as businesses, we need to sell. We need to have sales coming into our business. And the processes within that are like lead generation. So we have a process in our business, well, how do we generate leads? Then we have a process, how do we qualify leads? Then we have a process, well, actually, how do we present the offer based on what we all now understand that the client wants and needs from us? So if we just go down into lead generation and we think about this, lead generation is a process, but within that process, there's little workflows that are all at play behind the scenes in order to achieve that process. An example for that would be like an email newsletter. We send a weekly email newsletter. Okay, so what's the process for that? Like what needs to happen for that specific newsletter to be sent? Okay, so on a Tuesday, I need to actually write the content. On a Wednesday, my VA needs to edit the content, put it into the project management system. Then I need to sign it off. Then it needs to be scheduled in our software. Then it's scheduled to send at 11 o'clock on a Friday. Can you see how then we're starting to break down what happens, when it happens, how it happens, and who does it? So the workflow is literally the how is this going to happen? And then you can break those down in all these separate workflows, and all the workflows come together to deliver on the process, which in turn delivers on the system. Does that make sense to everyone so far? Let me know in the chat if this is making sense, if you're still with me on this. And if, obviously, if there's any questions, you guys know that, please feel free. Great, thumbs up from Lisa, awesome. So the first thing I want you to do is start from where you are. Forget about what everyone else is doing, forget about the end result. When it comes to systems and process mapping and really anything in the business, whether it's creating a new service, we want to start with the current state. So where are we right now? We'll get to where we ideally would like to be, but if you can get it out of your head and on paper where you are, and down the left-hand side is all the steps and stages I put for an example for a copywriter. So if you're a copywriter, this might be the process that you have for working with your clients from start to finish. So they initially contact you, then we qualify whether or not they're a good fit. So if you predominantly work with the beauty industry and this person is a dog trainer, you might be like, no, actually, they're not a really good fit for me. Then we want to send them a proposal based on their needs. Then they say yes, then we'll send them a contract. Then we'll send them their invoice. Then we maybe have a kickoff meeting. Then I go ahead and do my research in the background around what the client needs. I'm going to create the draft for them, send that to the client. The client will then send back revisions. Then I'll send over the final delivery, and then I'll send them over a follow-up and testimonial. So that is, even if you just understand right now, what are the stages that I go through with my client to get them from initial contact, their problem is solved and we're offboarding. Like what happens? Just literally getting, and then the next step then is just take each one of those and go into those in further detail. But what I want you to understand is it doesn't have to be. I've put 3 ways that I can recommend you do this. And one of them that I love is just getting a pen and a piece of paper, literally with that copy we just talked about, and just literally writing down, okay, somebody sends me an email, I send them back an email, I chase them 3 days later, they tell me what they need. So clarity is the first step. Understanding, like, and if you have a physical shop, somebody comes into the shop, they tend to walk around, they'll ask if I have something, we'll show them where it is, they'll come to the checkout, they want to order something else. So really just understanding, like, what are all the steps people go through when they work with me? You know, we wrap up their new cup, we put it in a bag, you know, we make sure we tie it with a certain ribbon, so we can ensure that every client gets a consistent experience. And this is key as well, because if one day, if you have a process in your head for how you serve your clients, and you haven't communicated that clearly and fully to your team, somebody could come in one day and get this amazing experience. And just using the shop, because I know that we have somebody on here with the retail, I want to show that this is applicable for both service and product-based businesses. But if they come in one day and they buy a cup and it's beautifully wrapped and it's put in a gift bag and it's a beautiful gold bow and they just feel so special, and that's your process, that's the ideal process, and that's how you want clients to be treated and the experience that you want them to have, but you haven't communicated that to your new team member, and that person then comes in and buys a cup the next day and it's not wrapped, it's just put in an ordinary carrier bag, and it's just like the client's like, but this isn't what happened the last time. So we don't have consistency and experience for our clients. So pen and piece of paper is just really a good starting point, or just even a Google Doc, opening up a Google Doc and just putting it down in bullet points. Or you can then go to the next phase, which if you are techie and you do like to play with software, there's lots of pieces of software that you can get that are really, really powerful for this to get you started. And I've noted 3 of them there. So Miro, Lucidchart, and Whimsical. I've used them all extensively and I still love Whimsical. It is my favorite tool for process mapping, and literally just square boxes to start with and just note down all of the stages. So let me know in the chat if you have currently ever sat down and just mapped out, let's say, for example, because I know Rachel and I were talking about this earlier, but client onboarding. Have you actually sat down and mapped out what are the key steps that need to happen from somebody coming to say, hey, I've kind of heard about you and I like what you do, to actually coming on board and becoming a client? Have you mapped out what needs to happen at those steps? Or also, how are you finding that? How frictionless is that process for you at the minute? Let me know in the chat as we go on to the TAPS framework. So my framework is really simple. It's called the TAPS framework, and it's a framework that I take myself through, all of my clients through, to really help them get the processes in place. And I call it, obviously it's the TAPS process, because obviously the first letter of each of the steps starts with the letters, but also I would say it's about turning off the tap on inefficiency and confusion and turning on the tap on efficiency and exceptional client experience. So, and often a lot of the times, we are the ones twisting the hose, stopping the water coming out. So we're the ones that are stopping our processes being efficient, because we're the bottleneck. So things are having to come through us as the business owner. If somebody wants to do something, and I'm sure this is an experience all of you have had at some point, either as an employee or as an employer or as a business owner, you give someone a task to do and you say, can you just start sending the weekly newsletter? And so where do we keep the drafts? What piece of software do we use? Is there a specific brand or layout? And at the end of it, you're like, I should have just done this myself. And that is not the other person's fault. It's because we haven't actually given them what they need to successfully do that process. And one of the most powerful ways to do that is actually have the person who's going to be doing the task. And I know for a couple of you on here in this call, you're involved in bigger organization-wide, and this is really key. Get the people who are actually going to be doing the task involved in the documenting of the task. Because often what we think people need to know about how to do something is not what they need to know, because we have a level of understanding that that person won't have. So, you know, it's that whole thing about we only know what we know, okay? And we assume a lot of the time that other people know what we know. So one of the most powerful things that I did when I started working with VAs in my business was I had documented processes, but I handed them over to the VA and said, okay, ask me questions about something that you feel is missing. They would go, but what is that? And where does that live? And where do I find that? So allow the person who's actually going to be doing it to come and create space to ask you those questions, that you can create a beautiful, comprehensive and usable document that anyone can use in your business. So that's just before we dive in, something to think about. So the first stage is templates and assets. So what do I mean by that? So the first stage, obviously, this comes after you having mapped out roughly. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect. I'm going to reiterate this again and again and again. We're not aiming for perfection when you're starting out mapping your processes. This is an iterative process. You will come back to this and it will evolve and evolve and evolve. So just start where you are. So let's take, for example, the copywriter. If we think about that process, okay, there's going to be a proposal involved. So the client needs to see a proposal. They're going to need to know, right, what there is. There's going to be forms. There's going to be an initial inquiry form. There's going to be a call scheduler, hopefully. There's a call that needs to take place for you to sort of connect and see whether or not you're a good fit. And we all know Rachel is the queen of these calls on a Tuesday in her week's connection calls. You know, we want to make that as easy for them as possible to get time in your diary. It also ensures that you, as the business owner, can create boundaries around the time that you have available. Because obviously headspace, context switching, all of those things. So if you can put them all together on a specific day, it's really good for productivity as well. So there's going to be a form, there's going to be emails that need to go back and forth, there's going to be an invoice, there's going to be a contract, and there's going to be a task that you need to do. So if at the minute in your business right now, you're creating all your proposals from scratch every single time, you're going back and forward via email to try and arrange a call, you're writing your emails from scratch every single time. If somebody's asking the same question over and over again and you're writing the same answer over and over again, that's a really good flag for you to say, if I'm writing something or creating something more than once, it can be templated. It can be templated to some degree. You know, inquiry forms, again, instead of just, you know, asking the same questions in email, can we put this somewhere and send them a link? Invoices, you can template your invoices. You can have software, obviously the amazing software is like Dubsado, Xero, QuickBooks, all can create invoices for you, so you don't have to go into Canva. And I was there when I started my business, guys. Actually, it wasn't even Canva, it was like Microsoft Word. I was creating my invoices in back in the day, where it was just like every single time a client needed an invoice. And your contract, all of these things, anything that you're going to use more than once can be and should be templated. And that can look like having it in a Google document that is a template that you duplicate. It can look like using something like a piece of software like you know, Dubsado or a CRM system or a project management tool. Your contracts, any of this. So ask yourself, what am I repeatedly creating time and time and time again manually that actually I could template? And they're also called assets as well, for your templates and your assets. In terms of having those in the back end of your business. So let me know if you have currently templates in place, or if you're confused about actually how do I template things or where should I store them. Just simply starting off by actually having a list. You don't even have to have created them yet, but in an ideal world, what would I have templates for in my business that I could use? And again, you can just create a Google Drive folder and have them in there. You can have templates in your Gmail. You know, I'm going to say to you as we go through this, like there is pieces of software and automation that we're going to want to use, but we're starting from scratch. Okay, we're starting from like understanding everything that we need, a physical template or asset that we need to be able to service this client from start to finish. Does that make sense for everyone? Okay. Yeah. Okay. So an example here. New client, for this is for our copywriter, because to go back to our example, this person would need to have a new client inquiry form, a client services guide, which is, you know, these are the services that I offer, and this is my pricing. So again, if you're spending your entire day going back and forward to someone says, how much is it for 10 blogs? How much is it for a newsletter? How easy would it be just to have somewhere on your website, somewhere somebody exchanges their email address and they get your service guide sent out to them, and then you can follow that up again with an automated email that says, hey, we noticed you downloaded a service guide, we'd love to chat with you, click here, book a call or fill in an inquiry form. So you're able to be spending your time and your energy focused on serving your clients, and you know that there's a process on it in the background that's automated that is, encouraging people to book a call with you. A proposal template, they're going to need a contract template, an invoice template. They might want to have a kickoff meeting agenda. So again, going back to ensuring that all of your clients have a consistent experience. So, we want to make sure that we're covering off all the questions that we need to ask. So just by having an agenda that you duplicate every single time you have a kickoff call with a client to ensure that you're marking off the key things. A client questionnaire, so when the client does come on board, ensuring that we're asking them all the questions that we need and having that somewhere done and templated, so that instead of every single time we sign a client, we have to write it all out, tell me this, chase them, you just send them a link to a client questionnaire form, and and you're confident as the business owner, you're capturing everything you need at that point. You might have it for yourself as a business owner in something like Trello, Asana, or ClickUp, or even just in a Google Doc. So this is me going for you right from the point of, I'm entry level here, I'm just starting out, I don't want to invest in software. Even something as simple as a Google Doc, they've got the checklist feature in a Google Doc. You could create that and save it as a template, and then every time you have a new client, duplicate it and pop it in their folder and just tick it off as you go. And then as you move up, of course, you can put it in your project management tool, and then going at the next level of automation, when somebody signs a contract, you can put in something like Zapier, an automation software that will then automatically replicate that template for every single client that comes into your business and assigns those tasks to specific people. Of course, we're trying to make you dispensable as the business owners, so you can go and have your month in the Bahamas and not have to worry about your business falling down around you, or could be a hiking holiday, whatever your thing is. For me, the Bahamas might just be a nice holiday. So they might also have a draft review and sign off form. So of course, especially when you're in a service-based business, especially when you're providing something that needs to be signed off by a client, it's always really powerful in terms of boundaries and ensuring that your process is efficient, to have something there where you're having the client actually sign off to say, I accept and agree. So like whenever we submit our tax returns, we go in and we sign off and say, yeah, I've approved these, they're all good to go. But again, you don't have to manually do that and chase it. You can have a system in place that will do that for you. You might have a final delivery checklist, so ensuring that the client has everything that they need as you're offboarding them. So have they got all their, their logos, their draft files, everything's done, it's in the thing, so it's all checked off. Call schedulers, testimonial form, additional services guide, which is like cross-selling, into new services after you've completed that initial service for them, and of course a referral form. So can you see how actually from that process, there's quite a lot of things that we can just create up the front end and have in place, so that we can just take it out of our headspace and put it somewhere for the client to be able to use and for us to be able to utilize in the business. And as we bring on team members and help, additional team members, they can obviously then just use the templates that you've already created. So the A in TAP stands for automations. So I would ask yourself, this is where curiosity really comes in. Like, where am I spending so much time in my business that it's just costing me my time, energy, and money? So I always say, if you're spending time on like 10-point tasks in your business that can be automated, you're costing yourself money. Because if you were selling that time to a client or using that time to do a sales presentation, that's a 10,000-point task, right? Being out there in front of people, building your brand, growing your business, being able to pitch for new business, bring new people in, bring in new product lines, create new services and offers. Those are tasks that you should be focusing as a business owner, as a founder of your business, depending on obviously your role in the business, where you want to be spending your time and energy. So I always say to my clients, do a time audit. Do it for a week. Just track your time and ask yourself honestly and openly, where am I spending my time? Have I spent 3 hours today scrolling on Instagram, or have I spent 4 hours today trying to get that proposal tweaked a bit to the left? Whereas if I just sort of had a VA that could do that for me, actually that would have been done 3 hours ago, and I could have been focusing on the stuff that's really going to generate revenue in my business and serve our clients to the highest possible level that we can. And it'll also reduce your frustration as well as a business owner, if you can do that. So start to ask yourself, like, are there places in my business that I'm doing things that I just do not need to be doing? And I would always say, in this era and this time of AI automation, you can automate pretty much anything in your business at this point. And check in with yourself though as a business owner too, though, in terms of your values and your customer experience as well, because just as we can automate doesn't always mean that we should. So we don't want to remove those touch points, those human interaction points that add value for our clients, just because we can. And sometimes I see clients, they start automating and they're like, I can automate everything within an inch of its life. And it feels really good. But then we actually realize we need to remember that outside of our processes, back end, front end, customer journey, we always want to go back up and say, what impact is this having on the customer? Is it a positive? Is it a negative? And there has to be that balance between serving our customers and serving our bottom line. And it's as simple as that. I always say we have to find the balance in that, because if we focus too much on automating and getting everything to the point where it's automated, but then our customer experience is dropping, we'll soon notice that our bottom line starts to drop too in line with that. So always ask yourself, is this having a positive? And ask your clients. And I know Rachel said this, you know, the client, don't be afraid to ask your client openly and honestly for feedback, and give them the rein and say, like, I want you to be honest with me. I value your feedback. Constructive criticism. And I always, one thing that actually one of my clients does, and this isn't mine, but I absolutely love it. She's a designer, and she actually asks her clients for feedback on designs, and she gives them a link through to a guide how to provide constructive criticism. So she's actually, again, setting the expectation with the client. This is what constructive criticism looks like. It's not just a case of just, you know, having a rant on a page. It's a case of, if you obviously want there to be an output and a change from this, so it needs to be constructive so that we can action it in a way that's going to be valuable to all. So something to think about. So what can we really automate in our business? Or what do I recommend that you can start with really simply and really easily? And this, we're looking at this from the lens of, for today, a call, you know, client onboarding and a service. But automation can be applied everywhere in your business, whether it's onboarding team members, whether it's, you know, uploading, you know, files, whether it is scheduling social media posts, whether it is getting something, you know, and the one thing that comes to mind is, like, you know, YouTube, because I know, you know, it's a growing platform, and there's a lot that actually goes into getting a YouTube video from a concept and idea to out in the world and optimized. And the key thing here is even just understanding what part of that process can we automate, whether that is, instead of me having to write an email to my team member to say, hey, I've had a look at this is going to be scheduled, just by moving it in the project management tool, it's automatically going to send them a notification saying, hey, this has now been approved, you can move on to the next step. So just asking yourself, where am I spending time in my business doing tasks that I don't want to do? And I have that on the next page as well, so we'll get on to that in a minute. So sending proposals, you do not have to create proposals over and over and over again. There's CRM software that you can create a master proposal, and it will send it to your clients. And I always say, like, even if you create a master proposal and you just delete things out of it before you send it to your client, you're still saving yourself time. And you can automate sending your contract. So when somebody accepts your proposal, it'll trigger the send of a contract, and it'll trigger the creation of their invoice. The piece of software that I use to do this in my business and that I'm really passionate about is something called Demystifying. And it's made for service-based businesses predominantly, and it's a CRM tool that helps you onboard and manage your clients. And you build out workflows that it will trigger, and so you can go in the behind the scenes. Once client signs proposal, send contract. Once contract is signed, send invoice. Once invoice is paid, send call scheduler. And to give you this example, I know that we talked about it before we come on, but I'll give you the example of how this actually works in practice in our business, that you can see how this works. So we have it set up that once somebody signs a contract with us, behind the scenes, once that happens, it triggers an automation that we've set up using a piece of software called Zapier. And what happens behind the scenes is it creates a Google Drive folder for that client in our Google Drive. It creates subfolders for that client. It uploads Google Drive or Google document templates into that folder for that client. It then grants that client access to that folder and sends them an email to let them know that they've been granted access to that folder. It creates a Slack channel for that person in our Slack account, because that's predominantly how we communicate with our clients. It creates a Gmail label for that in Gmail underneath in our Gmail account, in our email software. All of that happens behind the scenes without us having to lift a finger. So, and it also then in ClickUp, it creates a client folder them, and ClickUp and applies a template for them in ClickUp based on the onboarding steps that we need real humans to take. So anything that can't be automated, it sets it up behind the scenes, puts the tasks in automatically, assigns them to a member of our team, and tells them when they need to complete that task by. I'm having a cup of coffee somewhere, and I know that my clients and my team are being fully served, and in a way that I have planned out, mapped out, and ensured that they're getting great service and we're creating efficiency and clarity behind the scenes in the business. So, oh, yeah, better proposals. I haven't heard of that one, Rachel, but yeah, there's so much software, and that's why I've left software to the end, because it is the last thing we should think about when we're doing our systems, because it stops us from shoehorning things that don't fit into the wrong places. So it's like somebody buying a pair of size 5 shoes and then trying to put their feet in when they're a size 7 and going, why won't it fit? It's like, it's never going to fit. It's never going to fit. So we can either get sore feet, or we can wait until we understand, you know, what the process is, and then ask ourselves, is this software really going to deliver what we need, or is there, you know, a bundle of softwares that we need? So, and then, so that's the automations that I would recommend, you know, in terms of exploring automation. So does anybody, before we go on to the P, does anybody have any questions around automations? Because this is often something that I find. Please feel free to unmute yourself, come on, or ask in the chat box. If you have questions around actually how to use automations, the one piece of software that I would recommend anybody watching this or here today to do is go and check out Zapier, Zapier. It's a piece of software that basically acts as the middle tool between two pieces of software that don't natively speak to each other. So it's basically, when this happens in Google, do this inside ClickUp. And it just saves, it is the biggest time saver in your business, where you can introduce automation in a way that is going to save you time and energy, because there's so much. An example is, when we worked with a client last year, they were costing themselves £15,000 a year onboarding clients, because the amount of time it was taking them to onboard every single client in the business. They were manually sending call schedules, they were manually sending emails, and throughout the process we mapped out they were sending 46 emails for each client from the start of their journey to the end of their journey. It was a coaching business. So that was a lot of time, energy, and lost revenue opportunity, and we managed to automate 90% of that process for them, because it just didn't need to happen. But the thing is, we only know what we know, and if we don't know that this can be automated, then, you know, I'm so delighted that you're here today, because now you're seeing a whole new world of possibility. So automation, understand where you're costing yourself and your team time and headspace, because this is a key one that I think it is really important to notice. Nothing will reduce someone's morale faster as a team member than doing a task repeatedly that they know that they don't have to do. So they don't feel like they're contributing or having a purpose or where they want to be putting, you know, their skills, and they don't feel utilized as a team member. So really asking your team too, check in with your team and ask them, is there something you're doing repeatedly that's pissing you off that you don't really want to be doing? Or is something, or do you be open again, as much as your clients as well? Ask your people inside the business, like, what are we doing that we could make better for you and more efficient for our clients? Because often they will have a world of knowledge that we don't have as the founders and as the business owners, because we're not the specialists in that area, right? So especially if you bring somebody in and their speciality is marketing, and we've been doing something a certain way, don't be afraid to say, like, is there a better way we could be doing this? And be open to that. And that's why I always say, business processes are an evolving and living thing in your business. So
Lisa's asked a really good question. So Lisa's asked, in terms of how complicated the installation for automation processes when using things like Zapier, is it something that somebody, this is a really good question actually, is it something that somebody techie needs to do, or is it quite easy to sort of do yourself, follow instructional videos or YouTube videos?
I love this question, Lisa. Thank you so much for asking this, because the question is, how technical are you? and I could say to you, I will never say, oh, you do this. What I would say is, the beautiful thing with these tools is that the majority of them are free to start with. So go in and start with a really simple task. The more complex it gets, you may want to bring someone in. It may be more time efficient. And I always ask yourself this question: is it a good use of my time to be doing this? And am I going to do this task again in the future? So it's not something that you're going to do repeatedly. Outsource it off your desk. It shouldn't be you doing it. It definitely should not be you. If this is not something you're going to be doing repeatedly, then outsource it to somebody who can. And there's loads of people out there. If you are quite techy and you enjoy this stuff, you might like it as a little passion project in the evening. A lot of people do. But the key thing here is, no matter whether it's you doing it or someone else doing it, because you put in that legwork of understanding what needs to happen, when, why, by how, or by who, how and by who, it's so much easier then to understand, well, actually, I want this to go from here to there, and I want that to be created, as opposed to just opening up a piece of software and going, don't know what I really need this to do for me. So the answer is, Lisa, it depends on what the task is, because you can have single step actions. Yeah, well, if you can write SQL, this is going to be absolutely no problem to you, my lovely. But for anybody who doesn't write in computer languages, it all depends on you, and that's okay if it's not your thing. Just find a tech VA or an expert that can really help you with that, to do that. But you want to start with a strategy and thinking, what do I want to happen, when, and why? And from there, then we can introduce the automation to understand where can we reduce human input and human error. All right, so people. So this is so important. Your people are so important. And the reason people comes after automation is because I think I said this before we started recording the call, but I'm a massive advocate, and like my strap line is always never waste human talent in something a piece of software can do. Because if you're able to free up that person's time and energy, they can be contributing to so many other things in your business and just having so much more impact in their real zone of genius. So what I would say is, like, then once we've automated, like, what's left? Like, what's left? What do we either choose that we know we don't want to automate because it's going to have a negative impact, or we perceive it's going to have a negative impact on client experience? Or also then what can't be automated? Because not everything can be automated, you know? So things like that, in terms of understanding then what's left that needs to be done, and then understanding, does it need to be on my to-do list? And this is a question a lot of us as business owners don't like to ask ourselves, because we like to hold on to things, right? You know, especially when you've grown your business from the ground up, it's your baby and you put a lot into it. Or also, if you want to grow your skills and your expertise in a certain area and you're working in a larger organization and you're thinking, actually, who has the best skill set to delegate this task to? Often the person that we think is, because they're good at it and they can do it, isn't necessarily the person that should be doing it. And that's something really, whether you're in your own business or you're working in a larger organization and maybe you have responsibility for processes and systems, asking that question, like, who is it best to delegate this to? And I recommend, as a business owner, to do what I call the love it, loathe it, or do it method, which is my method that I've come up with. 3 columns on a page. What do you loathe doing in your business? Like, what do you literally hate doing that sucks the life out of you? That's the first thing you either need to be automating or delegating off your task, because energetically, it's not serving you. Therefore, it's not serving your clients if it's not energetically inspiring you. What do you love to do? So the things that you love to do, but you don't necessarily need to be the person doing them. So these are the things that we're holding on to because, like, I just love this thing, but I know that it's not a good use of my time. And then the do it list is the things that only you can do in your business. So nobody else, you can't outsource that, you can't automate it. So for me, that would be like trying to send my VA to do a coaching session with one of my clients. That's not going to happen. I got to do that. I got to be there. That's where I'm adding the value. That's my zone of genius. And you'll very quickly understand then what you can outsource to other people in your team or external providers outside of your business and your organization. If right now you don't have the capacity for team inside, you can obviously outsource those things and have people come in and set them up for you. And always ask yourself, like, what do people need in order to efficiently and effectively complete this task? Am I giving this person what they need to be able, and am I telling them what success looks like? It's really a standard operating procedure. It's literally the first step of it is telling people, how do we know that this is successful? What is this designed to do? What output is this designed to have? So really asking yourself, like, am I giving this person everything they need to be successful at implementing this task? And if the answer is no, then asking yourself and asking them, like, what do you need? What's missing? What would really help you do this? And then go back and thinking, okay, right, well, what templates do we need to create? What automations do we need to put in place? And in what order do things need to happen? And as I say, that can always be useful to have somebody else do that with you. And then the last step is software and SOPs. So what software do we need? Only when we have mapped out the rest. And in your automations, you're going to start to figure out, actually, I need this, I would like this to do this. And you're going to be able to say, well, actually, here's some potential softwares that could do that. But then we put our processes into our software. So actually CRM, actually we need our CRM to do this, this, and this. So for Rachel, it might be better proposal. Somebody else might go, well, actually, I just need HubSpot, or I need, practice. So understanding what you needed to do, then you can select the software that best serves your needs, okay? And then create your standard operating procedures to support it. It needs to be out of your head, guys. If right now you're walking around with all this stuff in your head, I just want you to ask yourself, how much valuable headspace in the headspace filing cabinet are we using up that we just don't need to do? And get your team involved in the creation process. And an SOP, just to take in a ladder of what that can look like. An SOP can simply be a workflow diagram. That's a workflow SOP. So remember we talked about the start, getting a pen and a piece of paper. And if you optimize that then based on what needs to happen, that can be a good starting point. Because now you can visually see what's happening when at what point and what templates we're using and what needs to be brought in. The next step of that could simply be, okay, in order to set up an email newsletter, we do this. And actually, instead of having it all written out, ideally we want to have it in visual and written, because some people take in content better when they're watching, others when they're reading. So just record yourself, open up a Zoom meeting, hit record screen, and just talk through as if you're talking. So then we actually open up this file, and then we use this template for this, and then we use this template for that, and then we move the text here, and then we send it to this list. Save it. Now you have a video SOP. Now we have something that somebody can go in and just play, stop, play, stop, play, stop, and go through. And then from there, when you're in a place that you feel that you're ready to, you have a team in place, or you're not, I always say start before you're ready. Start before you're ready, because the amount of clients that come to me in pain because they're like, Avril, I'm trying to catch up with myself now. I can't do this. I'm trying to catch up. Is real. It's very real. So, and then you can get to the point you've kind of written SOPs in terms of actually, you know, what version of this is this, who created it, who's responsible for it, who implements this, what is the process of it, what are the templates that we use, what are the automations that we use, and what are the step-by-step instructions for that specific workflow that we need to implement. That's it, my loves. And that is the first time I've ever kept a presentation on time. So if you have any questions, please feel free to come back, unmute yourself, ask any questions that you have. I'm here to answer anything that you have. I bet everyone's sitting with a glazed eye overlook going, if you take nothing away from this presentation, let it be just grab yourself a coffee and a pen and a piece of paper and just start to ask yourself, how are we currently doing things and in what order? And just even having that clarity out of your head, you're going to really quickly be able to see, actually, there's bits missing here, or there's bits that I don't enjoy doing, or there's bits that my clients aren't getting what they need from this at this point. Go back and ask clients. If you have a team, ask your team. And don't try and, you know, scale the mountain in one go. Just get to the first point. Ask yourself the question, when you do your time audit, where is the most opportunity and impact going to be made in my business right now? And I promise you 9 times out of 10 what clients will say to me is just client onboarding, because that is the pivotal point that clients really cement that relationship with you. It sets the expectation. You're literally setting the expectation for what is going to come. So it's like walking into that restaurant and having Fred from his first dates, you know, that energy, that exuberance, taking your coat, hanging it up, you feel good, you're ready for this meal, you can smell the food coming from the kitchen, you know this is going to be a good experience. To walking in, a server not being seen. I think there's some restaurant at the minute that I'm not sure, but it's quite a rude restaurant where people literally, the purpose of the restaurant is to treat you quite rudely. I don't get the concept, but I think it's Captain's Restaurant or something. I've heard of this concept, but you know, so understanding that at that point we're really saying to our clients, and it happens way before this, but that's a whole other webinar in itself. But from that point, but it's also the point where a lot of my clients say to me, I'm wasting so much time, Avril, it's just costing me my sanity. So often, even if you just start with your client onboarding, and even if you have a physical product shop, asking yourself, when clients walk into my shop, what do they need? What can I give them? What experience are they having? What process can we put? So it can be something like just ensuring that there's always a member of staff to ask, have you been with us before? Because if you ask, do you need help today? That's a yes or no, sort of like really closed question. Whereas you haven't been in here before. It's an open question that leaves space for the client to say yes or no. And if they say, no, we haven't been in here before, then you say, oh, that's wonderful. Let me tell you about our, you know, initial, you know, first client offer or promotion that we have on, you know, so it opens the door to building client experience, but every single team member knows what needs to happen, when and how and what order.
It's really interesting, like hearing you apply it to a product-based business. Like at the beginning, I was like, I wonder how Amy will be able to do this, because like my brain's like service-based. But even just hearing you say that, I was like, I'm pretty sure every time I've walked into a furniture shop, my immediate thought has been, I didn't measure the gap. So like, it's just really interesting how you can apply it to like a physical product-based business or a shop.
It can be applied anywhere. They're in our everyday life. They're ingrained within us. They're everywhere, and it can be applied to any business. I'm just seeing some questions pop up in the chat, actually.
I'm about to say, I was just about to ask one, so I was going to be really keen to jump in. So obviously it's been absolutely amazing, so thank you very much. Some of the software that you've mentioned, I'm definitely going to go away and look into. Is there any software, not to take it all negative, but is there any software that you're like, I would not touch that with a barge pole, or someone would have to pay me £1 million to go back there, or something like that?
There's no software, because the thing is, if there was software that was unusable, it wouldn't be on the market. So the reason, a lot of the times, the reason that people find software unusable or really difficult is because they've tried to start with a software and they don't understand why they're doing it and what they're doing it for. So start with a goal in mind. And then from there, once we know, we can almost create, it's like, I always say, it's like dating. If you're writing a dating profile for a piece of software, what is my dream piece of software? What would it do for me? And then, sort of understanding that. I mean, please feel free at any time to drop me a message and be like, this is what I'm struggling with, because usually my brain is very good at responding when somebody says this is a scenario. My brain will go boop, 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 and calculate almost like a response to that. But there is no piece of software that I'm aware of. There's always things that I would say, ask your peers in your industry, or even ask your clients, tell me about a time when you had a really good experience regarding whether it was being onboarded, blah, 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 blah. And from there, then that'll give you a good idea as to where the best piece of software will be for you to invest in.
Well, thank you.
And always start with a free trial.
Yeah.
Always start with a free trial, because the amount of times I go into businesses and we do, and I recommend you do this to your software check-in, and I'm sure Rachel will tell you this from an expenses perspective, but is there software you're paying for in your business that you're not using? Stop doing that. Don't do that to yourself. And so I always do, we declutter every quarter. Is it something that I'm paying for that I'm not using? Francesca, I think you asked a question in the chat. Do you have any advice on how to manage the overwhelm someone might feel when wanting to get this started? 100%, my lovely. And overwhelm can often, and it's exactly what I just said there, don't try and scale the whole mountain. Just pick one small part of your business, and don't try and aim for the fully written SOP out here. Just simply start with understanding, where am I right now? And in an ideal world, what would I like this to look at? Where am I having the most, where is it costing me the most time? And as part of this, I am offering like 30-minute coffee chats, which I'll actually pop the link over to Rachel and she can send out to everyone. So there's some 30-minute coffee chats. So an example of that would be like, we could spend that 30 minutes on that call front desk and you say to me, well, this is what it is I want to do. And we can brainstorm what that would look like for you. But literally, clarity is the first step. So overwhelm is a stress response when the body just feels like it's too much. We can't do this. We go into stress, and our sympathetic nervous system is like, no thanks. And that's when people then just drop the task and walk away. So if you feel that, just bring it back a step and just say, all I want to understand today is, what am I doing right now? What does the landscape currently look like?
Thank you. That's very helpful.
Yes, I don't think we mentioned it at the beginning, but everybody that attended live today gets, they're limited to 15 spaces, but everybody gets a free 30-minute, half an hour brainstorm, brain explode emoji session with Avril to just talk about the business, talk about what softwares you currently use, talk about where you'd like to get to, map out priorities, where to start. I feel like the word overwhelm has been used like quite a lot in the chat and like through comments, and I feel like it's really hard when you have an idea of where you can get the business to, but like knowing where to start and having somebody who this is literally their full-time job. But relating it to dating is really interesting, because I definitely like having deal breakers, like negotiables and non-negotiables. So like for us, like having really good customer service in terms of like the support that the software actually provides you is that's like a non-negotiable for us. So just having great customer support, having like working with a company that doesn't feel so big, they don't know who you are, like people that are really responsive with any technical questions that you've got or feedback that you've got. Yeah, definitely relating
people
to
buy emotionally, and then we confirm it rationally with the brain. So how you make people feel is so important, and it is like that dating analogy. But the other thing it helps you to do by having your process in place, it allows you to hold your boundary too, though, as a business owner. So if you're saying, if you don't have a welcome pack that says we're contactable Monday to Friday 10 to 4, we can't then be like, oh, why is that client sending me an email at 6 o'clock? Because we haven't told them how to create a really, so it's like when you start, exactly what you start getting. These are the non-negotiables. If we want this relationship to work, these are the things that we're not going to do. It can be really, really powerful, and it enables you just energetically as a business owner to just serve your clients from that place. So everything I do, process is a little layer of what I do that all upon built on it brings us back to that customer journey and experience, that we ensure that you're energetically served as a business owner, so you're not depleting yourself or exhausting yourself, and you love what you do, and you get to love what you do because your business is set up to support you and structured to do that. You're making profit in your business, so you're ensuring that you're selling services that people want to buy and are excited to buy, and we're serving them so exceptionally well that we're meeting their needs, and they can't wait to keep working with us and tell others about us. And we're doing it in a way that sustains our planet for us to live on. So, I mean, I love what I do.
I love that. So anybody who is here live or watching on demand, you don't need to do anything from our side. I know lots of you are making notes, so you can go away and action all of those. But in terms of having access to the recording and Avril and the link in order to book, you don't need to do anything. So we will be coming into your inbox on Monday morning with a recording of the webinar. So if there were some juicy bits that you want to go back and watch again, you can do that on Monday, as well as just a follow-up from Avril with any extra information and a link to book into her diary. So from our side, you don't need to do anything. It will come directly to you. But I feel like this is a really good like Friday morning like kick off into like it. You can like let it tick in your brain over the weekend. But thank you so much, Avril. How can people find you if they want to connect with you, follow you?
That was the slide that I didn't go on to, which was at the end of the presentation. So please hop on over to Instagram. You'll find me at Avril Anderson _ or come and join me on LinkedIn as well. Those are the two places where I hang out the most, is LinkedIn and Instagram. And of course, you will get the link. So hopefully I'll be having a coffee with some of you over the coming weeks to really just, hold some space for you guys, and in a very unique way for you to explore what this looks like for you in action.
Amazing. The chat is exploding with everybody saying thank you so much.
Thank
Avril.
you so much. My pleasure.
Amazing. Cool. Have an amazing weekend, everybody. Thank you so much, and I hope to see you again very soon.